Hello, this is Ian, and this is Ian's POV. Not doing very well today. Just done the video, and I had to turned my mic on. Ugh. Never mind. Here we go. Right. This morning on the television, Rachel Reeves is now going to tax you on your holidays. Up to £300. They didn't make it clear if it was like £300 a week or £300 a time. A couple of months ago, there was a report in the paper that your personal tax that you pay, and that's your income tax, your national insurance, your VAT, and your petrol tax, was averaging 37% of your income. 37%. And they are saying that it was the highest taxation that there's ever been. I don't know, I'm not the expert, but that's what they were saying. So this is another tax added on again. I think that the Labour Party is still playing the class war. I think they see people who can afford to rent a cottage in Cornwall or go up to Scotland and go hiking are the upper classes, where in fact it's just the ordinary guy like me and they. This is getting absolute craziness. And to top it all, the boats are still coming. We were told that the French were escorting the boats to halfway across the channel, and then we were going and picking them up when they came into English waters. We now find out that they're going out to the 12-mile limit off the French coast. Now, if they're picking them up at the boats, they're still in French waters. That's half the channel. They're in French waters picking them up. They ought to be taken back to France, not brought over to here to England. We can't afford to keep paying them for doing nothing. They can't work because they're illegal. They got no right to stay. Oh, they're going to waiver it all. But that can take 2 to 4 years. So they still can't work. So they're working on the black market. So in the summer, they'll have jobs. They'll be picking strawberries, picking hops, working on the potato machine down on the farm. But do they want to work anyway? They're all in luxury hotels. They're going out raping our women. Someone's got to put a stop to this. And it's the government to blame now. The Tories as well, mind. Boris is as much to blame as Starmer is. But nobody's got the balls to stop it. They're just going to have to tax you more. So your personal tax is at 37% reported. It's going to go up to 40%. May even be 50% by the time this Labour government's finished. The Beatles done a song, you know I'm a Beatles fan, called The Taxman, written by George. Because they went into the higher tax bracket in 66. And he wrote a song called The Taxman. And tax then was 20%, 25% standard tax. But then they had a 40% tax for the rich. But then the Labour government under Harold Wilson brought in a tax of 95% for the top 5%. For the millionaires. And the Beatles were the millionaires. So the working class heroes, John Lennon, which they were now in the higher tax bracket. They were paying 95% tax. That's why George said 11 for me and 1 for you. 1 for me because I was paying 11 shillings tax on the pound. You had 20 shillings to the pound back then, you see. He also said, I'm the taxman. And he listed a load of things. And he said, if you walk the street, I'll tax your feet. Well, this is what's happening. He's taxing your holidays now. Rachel Reeves is the taxman. It's just unbelievable. And the more money you take off of me, the less money I've got to spend. Me and the wife are cutting back already. We're thinking, we want to do this. We can't go there. The cost of petrol. We were invited about 60 miles away to a party. We drive there and drive back. And we have to say, sorry, we can't afford it. Where the car was 60 quid to fill up, it's now 80 quid. Oh, they're not going to do the fuel tax rise that they planned. So there was another tax going on. But you remember, if the fuel price goes up, the government is still getting the 20% VAT on it. Or is it 5% on fuel? I don't know. But they get higher VAT rate. So it's not just the fuel tax. It means that everybody that's running a business. I'm only a small businessman, and I do one trip a month to Birmingham. 3 years ago, it cost me half a tank of petrol. Tank of petrol was 50 quid. Up and back, 25 quid. And I charge my customer just for the petrol, 25 quid. I'm now having to charge him 35 quid. Because it cost me 80 quid to fill the tank. I might even have to charge 40, but I'm keeping the price down so I still get to work. That means I got less money as profit that I can spend, which means that somebody who's got a job could be out of a job because we're not spending money to keep him in work. It's not rocket science. It's quite a simple equation. You work, you earn money, you pay your mortgage, you buy your food, you buy your house, pay for your electric. Oh, and the council tax is going up again. Oh, that's horrendous. And all they do is empty my bins. They can't even do the potholes round here. I lost my train of thought. They tax you on everything. You know? Now, if you were to lower the taxes and stop the taxes, people would have more money to spend. If people had more money to spend, they could go on holiday. But they ain't going to go on holiday because they're going to be taxed. And it's going to become unaffordable. Therefore, the hotels, the guest houses, the bed and breakfast are all going to close. It is driving the economy down. It is not growing the economy. And it ain't rocket science. I keep saying that. It's basic economics. You cut the taxes, right? Give me more money. So perhaps one day a week, I could go down a pub and buy my wife a meal. I can't do that anymore. I haven't got the spare cash. Right, I have a plan. I think what they should do is take VAT off hot food, full stop. Food was never taxed. What they did is because we were in the EU, they put VAT on hot food. Fish and chips in the pub, It's got VAT on it. Cut VAT on food. That's a necessity for everybody. If you eat at home or eat in a pub or buy fish and chips, it's entirely up to you. But food should not be taxed. It's one of the underlying principles that we had, and it's gone out the window. And the Conservatives brought it in mind, not Labour. Then you think, right, what other tax can we cut? Domestic heating fuel. Fuel price has gone up. Right, we will cut the 5% VAT on heating fuel. Boomph. That helps everybody. Then you've got more money. Then you can save some money up and go on holiday. So you're not... Another one to cut is this holiday tax crap that they're talking about. People then spend money and it goes around the system. What they're doing is killing the system. So the government gets less tax at the end of the day. People also, when you're taxed more, people then think, hang on a minute. I worked in a factory for a couple of years. Gun trade went downhill. Shop I was working for went bankrupt. In the end, not because of me, bosses. There was 6 bosses on 30,000 a year. I was on 18, 20,000 a year. That was all. So you can't blame me for it. But they had 6 directors on 30,000 a year. Only 2 of them were working in the company. So they were siphoning money out of the company. It was a non-starter. And I could see it. Thank God I got out before they went bankrupt. Right. Now then. If you give me more money, I spend more money. I go out to the pub, I have a meal. The pubs don't close. They get, fair enough, they get the beer tax and what have you. Alcohol tax. And the economy gets going again. People move around. That's the way to grow the economy. Not to stifle it. But the Labour Party, it's like they got blinkers on. They've borrowed more money than any government ever in history. This country. And it's billions. They're under the IMF, but they're not talking about that. They talk about the IMF forecast. Now, when I was at work, I used to read the Telegraph because I had quite a lot of time to read a big paper, especially going in and out on the train. You know, I had half an hour to work and half an hour home. I used to read the Telegraph. I could read the Sun in half an hour. So I bought the Telegraph. It took me a bit longer. But what we found was if you tax, it's like Maggie. I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. Maggie and Harold Wilson and that, they say our policies would not affect the pound in your pocket. Labour ain't saying that, are they? They're saying, oh, they're going to cut domestic bills. No, they haven't. I'm paying more money for everything now. Oh. That's why, at the next election, I'm voting Reform. Because they can't do a worse job than the Conservatives and Labour. And at least the Reform guys have had a bloody proper job. If I can, I'd like to vote Restore Britain. Rupert Lowe's group. But we haven't got a candidate round here, so I can't. And if I do, I'd have to think, because I'd have to vote tactically to keep Labour out, because Labour won the election. This constituency has always been Tory. In the 20s and 30s, it was liberal. And the Liberal Party then went downhill after the Second World War. But it's been Tory since at least since the Second World War. It was a safe Tory seat. And we got a guy from Scotland come down. The seat was parachuted in. And he was here, nothing but a direct hit from a Zeppelin raid would ever move him. Last election, he got hit from a Zeppelin raid. And Labour won. But I looked at the figures. The Conservative vote absolutely collapsed. Labour only won by 2,000. The Conservative vote dropped 5,000 below Labour. If the Tories that were here were voting, they would have won. Now we've got Reform. It's a three-way split. And I am voting Reform in my constituency. And the more people that come over on the boats, the more they're going to have to tax you. So it's not going to be holidays, it's going to be everything. They're going to tax you for breathing soon. Anyway, rant over for the day. I'm going out to water the plants. Bye-bye.